We're still loading.
I get those goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. Through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. I'm high, you make everything go fine. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Off the mags. Yes, sir.
Good evening, people, and welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. We are back again. It's been a while we've got you boys on. The talk of the TOON is here. We welcome back some familiar faces to talk all things Newcastle United. Finally, the international break is over, and I think we're all happy about that and ready for some Newcastle United football again. But look, we'll just go around the panel. Welcoming Johnny, Newcastle Fans TV. How are you, fella?
I'm very good, Pete. You all good?
Yes, all good. We're coming back for that trophy. Do not worry about it. And I got my boys with me. We're gonna reclaim that trophy next year, no doubt about it.
Well, I've already had a message off Nick saying he's just signed a new 5-year deal with us. So there you go. That's it. May as well just end it there and then.
You're not allowed in goal as well, Johnny. By the way, we'll have none of that next year as well, right? Johnny Casillas over here turning up the season brand. Jesus Christ.
Do you know what it is, Matty, right? The only time that Sam Milner has said, I'll tell you what, I'm a bit impressed about you, Johnny, was that game. Literally after the game, it's like, that's the only time. Forget about the interviews we've done. That's the only time he's been impressed with a couple of good sayings.
A couple. You kept them in the game.
Mate.
There's about 15 you made, and they're all world.
Well, I don't want to brag too much. You know what I mean, boys? I don't want to brag too much.
What are you lot saying? Johnny's ready for backup goalkeeper to Pope, yeah?
Yeah, he's better than John Ruddy. Put it that way.
Proof is in the pudding. We've already seen it live and in colour, so that bad. But look, we've got Specs in the house. Mr. Geordie Dread, how you doing, fella?
Yeah, I'm good, man. You're London embracing Geordie Dread. Obviously, I'm not a Geordie, but you get me. Come on, from 96, going on strong. Just glad football's back. I'm done with this international break. Let's go, man. Let's go. Big up to everyone on the panel as well. I'll keep it real. As Fumby was saying just before, man, I'm starstruck. I'll keep it real. Been watching you from a long time. You get what I'm saying? And yeah, man, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I appreciate it. Big up.
Big up, bro. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you being part of the panel and being part of the group. That's for sure. Matty, Magpie Channel. Are we hearing? Do we say actor now?
Hey, mate, you can add that if you want. Do you know what I mean? It's just a long list of things, really. So, yeah, whack it in. Why not? BAFTA incoming. So,
Hollywood stardom is what we're looking at next.
Maybe we'll see.
You all good?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Cheers, man. Good to be here.
Fumby, pleasure
Yes,
as
sir.
always. I know
Yes,
you're always repping Unloaded. So great to have you back in. Ready to talk your talk?
Yeah, I'm ready to talk that talk. Got a lot to say. It's been a long week.
Yes, definitely. And of course, Geordie Josh, how are you, fella? How is things? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, Pete, actually. Funnily enough, I was thinking last week, when's Pete going to get the lads back together? Like, it's been quite a while, but nevertheless, Everyone on the panel, in the chat, Pete, yourself, I hope you're all okay. I've missed these shows, by the way, and yet again, going to look forward to yet another fantastic one this evening.
Yeah, definitely.
Therefore.
I was going to say, the reason why we've not been able to get together is because the summer window, the transfers have taken over.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we go there or not. There's not really too many transfers. That is for sure. So I think we'll just tumbleweed our way past that one. But like one thing I want to start with, and it's a bit of a conversation at the moment, continuing on after the window's shut, and it's about these two. Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell. Now, been reported all summer since Paul Mitchell walked through the door that he's almost put Eddie Howe's nose out of place a little bit with his standing in the club, and it's gone on. He almost promised, as what's been reported, that he would get Mark Gay in. Didn't happen, and now there's been rumours of fallouts again. After his interview. Now, it's taken Luke Edwards to come out and basically suggest that things are all good and that there are no concerns from a Newcastle United point, and they're going to work through things, as he puts on here. That was the latest piece that Luke Edwards has put out. What do you boys make of this situation? What do you make of everything with regards to Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell? And my question is, and we put it in the picture of the show, can Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell coexist? Can they come together to build Newcastle United's team as they envisioned when he got given the job? So, Johnny, I'll come to you first. What are your thoughts on all of this? What do you make on it from the moment that Paul Mitchell came in to how it's looking now?
I think without going into too much detail, you would say, well, what's he actually done? Apart from doing an interview with NUFC TV and just saying, oh yeah, I'm really, really excited to get started. Well, what has he done? But there is more to it that meets the eye, of course. I think we were caught off guard a little bit. And I think June was a massive, massive moment in terms of Newcastle United this year. I still think Amanda and Mirdad leaving is still a massive impact on Newcastle United, by the way. I don't think that gets mentioned enough, if I'm honest, because they just brought that, that family and that connection feel of the club and just keep everything on the right track, if you like. And they were like the spokespeople, if you like, in terms of the club, particularly Amanda, of course. But when Paul Mitchell came in, it was almost completely out the blue. It's been reported that Eddie Howe only really knew the day before it was reported to every Newcastle United fan out there. Before anything had started, you think that's a great appointment. That's a bit of a coup for Newcastle. He's got a fantastic pedigree, fantastic CV. And you think, well, this is going to be really exciting. My biggest issue was that I thought we were a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think we had a plan. I don't think we had a strategy. I think because it was so late, we were just behind everybody. And I'm not saying that going for Mark Gay was a panic. He's a top player. Everybody knows he's a top player. But it was played out in front of the media. Palace basically just had a great time. They thought, well, let's try and get other clubs involved if we can. If not, let's try and see we can try and push Newcastle to the max. The only thing I'll give Paul Mitchell credit for is they didn't pay 70 or 75 million for Mark Gay, because he's not worth that. He's a good player, but he's not worth 70 or 75 million pounds. In addition, who actually has the final say? Does Paul Mitchell have the final say? Does Eddie Howe have the final say? Because in the current modern day game, and I hate saying this, the manager or the head coach doesn't really have much of a say on transfers than they used to do back in the day. It's now your sporting directors. It's now your people behind the scenes. Of course, Eddie Howe is going to get a say of some variety. But why was it just a case of Mark Gay or nobody? Surely there's other defenders out there. And why are we putting panic bids of £50 million for Anthony Elanga? Like, with the greatest of respect to Anthony Elanga, I think we need to be a bit more savvy. In a weird way, not buying anybody's probably a benefit for Newcastle going forward, because now they've got 4 months to really look into January, another 6 months after that until June, to go, right, how are we going to spend our money wisely? What positions are we looking at and working together? And that's the big question. Can they work together? I hope they can, because it's got everything. It's got all the ingredients to be a fantastic partnership.
It has. It seemed like the perfect partnership. I'm not going to lie. When it came through, you know, he was considered best in class. We'd gone for him before. We went for Freeman at Crystal Palace. It did look like he was going to be the guy, but it just hasn't seemed quite right. And look, Specs, I'll come to you on the same situation because, you know, it hasn't been great. Like just recently, Paul Mitchell, quite rightly, in my opinion, you guys might disagree with that. So we'll come to you with regards to Paul Mitchell coming out and having his interview with some of the local journalists and kind of setting out why it didn't quite work over the window. But it seemed to have then didn't go down quite well with the club and maybe like Eddie Howe. And obviously Luke Edwards had put a piece out saying that there was a bit of tension in the club. In your opinion, do you think it can be mended? Do you think that they can put their differences aside and make it work so that in January we can go ahead and press ahead with the signings that we probably should have done in the summer?
Well, it's a tricky one, man, because in terms of the relationship, I think it's gone left anyway. I don't know if it could ever be anything past this, to be honest with you. That's just my honest opinion. From the moment Eddie Howe came out during that whole, the whole England call-up thing, potential call-up, when he's come out and said what he was saying, and he's made it clear, like, you know, like, kind of like indirectly repeating himself, saying, as long as, like, basically, if I could do things the way it has been and they don't step on my toes or override my decisions completely, which I think Eddie Howe needs to try and understand a bit more. Obviously, he's not silly. In the modern day, like you said, it's not about just you're the manager, you're not just a coach. Especially when they came out, I think Darren Ills said, we prefer kind of Eddie just to be on the training pitch. That's it. Do what he does, we do what we do. And like you said, Mitchell came in late. I don't think Eddie was too much known of it. So from the get-go, it went left. I mentioned it on my videos before. Where we are today, sitting on this panel, talking about this, I said this is coming. I said, who's going to shit on who first? Sorry for my language, yeah? That's what I said. So you go to the transfer window. Yes, you hear certain journalists from up north mention about everyone calm down. It's because of the PSR. But I don't want to hear about no... So I'm going to start going Jamaican here. I don't want to hear about no PSR, bro, because you was willing to spend 75, which is criminal. Johnny said he's a top player. I don't think he's a top player. I think he's decent, bro. And he had a decent performance out of a bad bunch of the Euros. That's my opinion. But regardless, I think it would have been a good addition. Anyway, don't get it twisted. It would have been a good addition. 75 mil, as Johnny said, is wild. You get what I'm saying? So when I mention PSR and all that, it doesn't make sense to me because it's like you went to spend 75 mil. And when it comes, and this is why I knew it was tricky as well. Sometimes you got to listen to the little narratives. You know, Eddie speaks well, but he's got little cold in his chat when he's speaking. So he said a few times, it's not about really the quantity. I just want the quality and go through how I go for, which he's gone for in the past, like the Isaacs or whatever. He identified to you ones like Gordon, for example. That's the one that got it over the line, etc., and so on. So my thing is, I don't know who to really go at because it's like, as Paul Mitchell said, look, man, this ain't working, bro. A whole 2 months going for Gerhi. We've got alternatives here. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Maybe Eddie Howe said, nah, bruv, I don't want that. This is your one. You said you look into your job. Go get him. If it's not him, it's nothing. And that's what it's turned out to be. So I think it's a disaster. It's worse than you think it is. And I just think the whole thing is just gone left. Can it be mended in terms of going for transfers? Yeah. If man do their job and be respectable, and communication is key. That's what I think is key. I don't think it's better being communication because of the slight tensions. So that's a concern for me. And as for Amanda, and people might not agree with me, the last thing I'm going to say on it is, as Johnny said, hands down, Amanda and Cole, they did, trust me, work for them. Let's keep it real. The takeover's not happening. They done well, innit? But with this whole PSR thing, we're not financial experts, but behind the scene, because they're new to this, did they go a bit overboard on buying players and not really knowing how this thing really works? Do you get what I'm saying? Because remember Mitchell said, which was to me a dig, he said it weren't fit for purpose, like the whole structure of the club of buying the players before. He said in his eyes, really what wants to say is that is crazy. That's what he wants to say. Do you get what I'm saying? So maybe, I don't know. I remember last thing I'm going to say is the PSR thing, it's kind of like since the takeover, when they promised us 5th place and all this, I think the landscape has changed a little bit. The little things like the whole PSR thing in June, like you said, that's a major stumble. So there's many ifs and little things going on. So I don't know. You have to wait and see. It's a mess though. Don't ever get it twisted. It's a bit of a mess.
Spectre said it's a mess, Matty. Do you see it that way? And in your opinion, what seems to be the problem? Why is it not connecting? Why is it not going as smoothly as what we intended it to be back at in the beginning of July?
I'd say it is a mess. It is going to take time, but there is a clear power struggle there. There is a clear issue there where Mitchell wants to do things a certain way, but Howe's stuck in doing things another way. It's not good what's came out so far. When it went back to, as Spec said, about the England time when Newcastle were in Germany at the Eddie Howe headquarters, and Howe kept on talking about boundaries and things are going to have to work. Things are going to have to, this relationship takes time, and it is. It is going to take time because I'm not going to lie, it is worrying. And at this stage, it's hard to judge because, and Mitchell said himself, I've only been here 7 weeks. I'm just doing a supporting role. So he will be judged properly in January and next summer for me. Because I did like the appointment, like you said, came with great credibility, great CV from his time at Southampton, Leipzig, Spurs, all the rest of them. But so far, it's not working. So far, if I'm going to judge it now, it's been a failure. It's been the first transfer window we haven't really got a marquee signing. We haven't strengthened the starting 11. That's a worry. It's been where you look at it and think one of them is going to end up leaving. I've had to say now, one of them will end up leaving because at the minute it doesn't look like it's going to work. It's great. Luke Edwards coming out and saying, they're working together and everything. Fantastic. Let's hope that's the case. But at the minute, I would say, How's going to go to England or Mitchell will leave? Because at the minute it doesn't look like it's going to work. Now that could all change. Like I said, let's wait until January. Let's wait until next summer. But there is a power struggle then. I didn't like the things Mitchell was saying. Like I said, I was a big fan of Mitchell. I thought it was a great appointment. I was like buzzing that Freeman turn me down. We could then turn to Mitchell. But when I look at it now, it doesn't seem like the balance is right at all. It doesn't seem like the balance is right at all. And I didn't like Mitchell coming out saying it's not fit for purpose and a lot of finger pointing, but no thumb pointing. Do you know what I mean? He blaming everyone else. No responsibility himself. And the fit for purpose thing, on one hand, is true. Listen, we were forced to sell Minter and Anderson on that PSR deadline at the end of June, unless we've got a points deduction. We'll listen to offers for Anthony Gordon because of that last system being in place, where we haven't been able to sell players. That's a Mike Ashley shadow is still looming over Newcastle United. As much as you might not want it to be, it is because you kind of get rid of players. We're having to mutually agree the likes of Ryan Fraser's contract to be terminated because nobody will buy him. No one will even give you 100 quid for him. So you're having to terminate his contract. You can't even get any money for him whatsoever. These players like Jamal Lewis is taken off to the Brazilian beaches just to get a loan deal because no one else wants him. It's madness, man. Miggy, we want 20 million for him. America are offering, five guys. We can't get anything for him. So all these other players are still chilling here, doing now. We can't get rid of the deadwood. We can't make any profit unless you're going to sell one of the big boys. So that's lingering. But I thought Mitchell was wrong in the sense of saying it's not fit for purpose because I tell you what, it looked pretty purposeful for me when we're signing Botman for 35 million, Bruno for 35 million, Isak at 63 million, looks like a steal. Tonali at 55 will be a steal. Lewis, Tino, I can keep going on. So I think the signings made were very good under the previous regime, to be honest with you. The only ones that haven't worked since the takeover is probably Chris Wood and Matt Targett. And you can even look at them and say, well, Wood kept Wood and Targett's been stricken with injuries. So I don't know, mate. I am worried about it, but we'll see how January goes. But I tell you what, I couldn't believe when Mitchell rounded off the interview by saying the January top target was going to still be Marquee. Like we just wasted a full fucking summer window on him. I tell you what we'll do. Winter, we'll waste that as well. It's quality. Like,
Davey, Matty, you see when you say because that's the part I'm stuck on as well. When he said about it's not fit for purpose, that kind of irritated me as well. But I'm trying to look at it like pragmatically thinking. Might came out wrong how you said it, but do you think maybe all those beautiful signings you just mentioned? Do you think maybe that's where he's thinking you spent a bit too much Had got too forward too quick, or you're not having that.
I think we did go too forward too quick because we were second bottom in the league. Do you know what I mean? We had to go mental on that first transfer window. Yeah. After that, and then we get Champions League earlier than expected. We're going to have to do something here. So we had no choice really to go for it. It's just, but we haven't been able to balance any of the books whatsoever by making any reasonable sales. So I get that part. But then you question, well, if it was such a PSR struggle and everything, why were we looking at Anthony Langer for 50 million with 3 hours left of the window?
Mental. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean,
it is. And look, just to kind of like come back to this, because there's a few people that have dropped comments in the chat about this, because we've just talked about things that Paul Mitchell said, but there's a lot of people out there, a lot of Newcastle United fans that won't have a bad word said about Mitchell because of what he's done in the past, and we've just talked about it. He's got a really good CV in terms of what he's done at other clubs, but is he, is it the case that it's all Howe's fault? Because like there's a lot of people out there that are kind of saying it's Howe's fault, and there's a few people just put comments in the chat that kind of like back that up. PDK's put Howe's a control freak. Williams put in there that Howe doesn't seem to play well with others. David's asked the question: is Howe managing his own exit? Like, look, for me, and Josh, I'll come to you with this. Like, is Eddie Howe to blame for this? Is this all Eddie Howe's fault since Paul Mitchell's come in? Like, because there's a lot on social media. There's a lot of people in our comments, in our chat sometimes, but just in general, that do seem to think that Eddie Howe's to blame. Like, is he, in your opinion, Fumby?
100% he's to blame. He's to blame since the first season he came in because he did something he wasn't supposed to do. He made us finish top 4, and with Longstaff in the team. And now we don't know where we are as a club. So all these things we're reacting to the success he took us to so early. And if you look, this is what I'm going to say, because the finger pointing and the blaming game is too much. I think it's intensified because there was no football this weekend, so there was no games to look forward to. But if you look at a football club, it's like a holy matrimony, right? You got God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. The Father being the chairman and the owners and them people there. The Son being the manager, which is Eddie Howe, and the Spirit being us, which is the fans. And any club that's successful, to be successful and continuously be successful, you have to have all those three in tangent, like in good unity. And right now, we don't have none of that. We've got games coming up, and we're already in a shaky team. You can see from the start of the season, the fans are not sure. Everybody's trying to find who's to blame and stuff like that. It's translating to the team. None of this has really much to do with anything. Phil Mitchell has no skin in our game. His CV is good for what he did in the past, not for what he did in the future. Eddie took us to top 4 in our first season when nobody wanted the job. Nobody wanted us. He didn't turn away Longstaff. He didn't turn away Miggy. He didn't turn away Murphy. Took all that shit on. Did his thing. Okay, maybe he is a control freak. Maybe he didn't make the right decision this window. But he has way more skin in the game than Phil Mitchell. Our transfer might not be fit for purpose. Fine. It's still a new thing. We've only been taking over for 3 years. There's so much things we have to change because Mike actually made us smell for 17 years. And everyone's acting like that's going to change overnight. It's not. It wasn't the best window, but the season started now. Everybody was saying the window's a disappointment, but now everyone's calling, when's Osula playing? Imagine Osula coming on saying, here's me, the disappointment, Like, we got to support these players. We got so much talent in our team. And we're forgetting all of that because we didn't bring in Mark Gahey. Like, it's not even this deep. We're moving like Man United fans, where we're just looking for anything to blame someone so we can feel like, he's the one to crucify. When there's so much more important things to look forward to from Newcastle United. All I'm saying is it's tiring to hear because we're being that club where it's just negativity we're spewing, and it's gonna come into the games. Every misplaced pass, every time we don't dominate in the game, it's gonna come back to Phil Mitchell, Eddie Howe, and the transfer window. And I'm just bored of it, man.
I think it's a bit harsh, though, bro. I think it's a bit harsh, though. I think it's a little bit harsh because
harsh on the fans or who?
On what you're saying, a little bit, just a little bit. Like, when you say you've got a great squad and all that, yeah. Don't you think like our squad's kind of thin anyway? Like to go even that Europe, our squad is a good first team maybe ish, but our squad is thin, bro. And someone's got to blame. Someone's got to blame, bro.
Without the defenders, I agree that we should have brought players in. Without the defenders we have injured in Lascelles and Botman. If Lascelles and Botman went in, I wouldn't be. If they weren't injured, I wouldn't be bothered about Margehi. I wouldn't even be interested because I'll have Lloyd Kelly and I'll be fine with that. Now the right hand side with Miggy and Murphy, that's the only place I want to touching up. Because I just know them man can't do it. They just can't. they can't level to the part where we need to secure a top 4. So I was happy to get that changed. But okay, who's going to buy Mickey? Nobody. We can't shift it.
But that's
You know
what
what I mean? We've got Miggy at the club. I don't blame him for not want to go. Why would I want to go? It's all good here. So we got that problem there.
Do you blame
Sorry?
So I don't people to go on. Do you blame Eddie for anything at all? Then are you blaming people?
No, I don't blame Eddie for anything. Because at the end of the day, you know why? Do you know why? Because when it comes to getting sacked, it's going to be him. He's going to one that's going to get sacked. So he has to do everything in his power to make sure I'm making decisions that I think is best for the team. Because regardless, he's getting sacked. There's no point in blame. It's not like he said don't buy players. He just wants players he can coach. He wants to have a say in the team he's managing. Because even if they buy players that don't work, he's getting sacked. So I can't blame him for like wanting. I don't blame him for the window. I blame all of them for the window. I blame all of them. From the time we sold Anderson and Minte, our window was set from then. It was a bunch of uncertainty after that.
No, fair play. And it's good to get that different perspective as well. And like, Josh, I'll come to you with regards to this, because you've heard everybody else's thoughts on this situation. How do you see it? How have you seen this play out, in your opinion, with regards to Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell? Is there anyone to blame? Fumbi's quite rightly said, like, we need to stop doing the blame game. You know, a lot of these top clubs, they have this all the time. Chelsea do it all the time. Man United do it all the time. They're always pointing fingers at each other. Do we need to get to that stage right now? Do we need to be blaming anyone? Does it have to be anybody's fault? Like, how are you seeing this whole situation?
Well, first of all, Pete, I'm going to have a little time to think so I don't exactly regurgitate what the lads have said, because they've made some very good points. But I've kind of taken like a back seat on this whole Eddie Howe, Paul Mitchell thing, because the way I look at it, Paul Mitchell has came in Newcastle United, of course, like in the middle of a transfer window. He's not had that time to adapt to the club. What Eddie Howe wants, as we know, Eddie Howe is this so-called control freak. He wants to have his hands in every sort of pocket, you know, the day-to-day training, the recruitment, all that sort of stuff, which, you know, Paul Mitchell comes in Newcastle with this big CV, and rightly so. He signed some fantastic players. But I think there is a little bit of tension there, and I don't want that to happen at our club whatsoever. I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been murdered in the past. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But somebody said every decision that's made at this football club will be right for the football club. Now, at the minute, this whole finger pointing thing, I don't get it at all, really. Yet again, Paul Mitchell's came in the middle of a transfer window, and it's just going to take time. As it stands right now, the transfer window that's ended, obviously, it has not been a success. We're talking to goalkeepers who, even Vlachodimos, who have just signed, is getting talked about getting loaned out while the window was still open. What on earth was going on there? Lewis Hall, I think, is a great buy. Lloyd Kelly, really do rate that on a free. Asula, we'll see what will happen there. But look, let's not, you know, sort of blind ourselves. That transfer window was not pretty at all. The way the Gahey situation panned out, I didn't like that either. And people will all draw their eyes to the January transfer window, you know, thinking, right, this is Paul Mitchell's time to shine. If that doesn't go smoothly, I think some of the fans will start to turn on the sporting director, which, yet again, I'm going to say this to kind of cover his back in time. I don't think that's fair either. In the January transfer window, you know you're going to have to pay inflated prices because teams don't want to lose their players mid-season. We're seeing it when we had our first transfer window under Eddie Howe. You know, your Chris Woods, for example, prime example of overpaying for a player, although Burnley were a relegation candidate at the time. But as it stands right now, I wouldn't point any fingers. Mitchell's came into a hard situation, and yes, the Gahey whole thing was quite embarrassing, in my opinion, how Palace kind of portrayed that to the media. £70 million, God knows how they got that figure. But as it stands right now, all I would say is I'm taking a back seat, but in my opinion, Eddie Howe has way more leeway than someone who's just come into Newcastle United. Eddie Howe has my back in every day of the week. And if I'm being honest, before Paul Mitchell, you look at the signings we've made. I know Matty said it. Bruno, Botman, Tonali, Isak, Lewis Hall, Valentino Livramento, Trippier, even the likes of Dan Burn, Nick Pope, they were bargains as well. Every single player we've signed, the majority of them have massively benefited Newcastle United. So as it stands right now, I'm not going to be pointing any fingers, but Eddie Howe was well within his right to assert his dominance at Newcastle United.
Yeah.
Big up to Josh. That's everything Josh said, bro. Everything. ×2.
Okay. Anybody disagree with Josh's comments? Anyone think that they're unreasonable? Anyone got a different slant on that? Because he's made some really good points there.
Big up to Josh. Oh, sorry. Go, John.
Sorry, mate. I don't disagree with Josh at all. I think it's quite funny. We've all been quite almost a little bit negative about it, but we've got 7 points from the first 3 games and we're through the next round of the cup. Could you imagine if we had no points on the board? We'd gone, this is a disgrace. This is this and X, Y, and Z. But no, it is true. Like, you got. I think that the signings that were brought in by the previous sporting director, those previous people that were running the club. In that side of things, there's some very, very good signs. Like, even like the fact that we've paid 28 million for Lewis Hall, I think that'll be an absolute steal because of his age. And the fact that he's going to be playing, you know, maybe not play every Premier League game, and Lloyd Kelly's there as a good backup down Burn when Botman's fit and available, etc., etc. But we just need to see. We need to see a strategy, in my opinion. We need to see a strategy going forward. It's worked previously. And like Rennie said, it's only really Target and Wood that you've got question marks on. We don't want many more question marks. We want to keep this going, but we need to make sure that we have a plan B, C, D, E, and F, you know, rather than just what it seemed like. And I know they'll probably, you know, they'll distance themselves from it. Just a plan A, because it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing at times in the summer. But I think we've got to just look forward now. Look forward. We've got 5 if you include the Wimbledon game. 5 different tests going forward before the next international break, and it's you know, we're in a good place. We're in a good place on 7 points after 3 games, which is only Man City and Liverpool, and they're not bad teams to be behind.
There you go, and it's, as you said, we're not in the worst position at all. I'm not going to lie, Fumby, this made me chuckle a little bit because Ian asked the question, who's Phil Mitchell? Because he kept referring to his brother. I thought we were watching an episode of EastEnders.
EastEnders, yeah.
But, we were back there, but that
just an actor that Reddy looks up to, mate. Don't worry about that.
But the question I do want to ask is around sort of Paul Mitchell. And Foxy just said, you know, Paul Mitchell said the exact same when he arrived at Monaco after they were buying too many players and not selling. He trimmed the squad from 77 to 39 very, very quickly. So it could well be that he's come in here and he's looked at the situation, looked at some players that didn't need to leave. But Matty, you made the point earlier that we just can't get rid of these players. We're in such a difficult position that we just can't actually get rid of the players that we want to get rid of. And we're always having to wait for their contracts to run out, which is long and it's timely and it's frustrating. I mean, we've still got Isaac Hayden at the club. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Did he actually get a move by the end of the window? So he's still at the club. He's not training with the first team. So where's he training? Under 21s? This is the situation that we're in. And this is what is so frustrating. And the one thing that I'll say is that with the PSR, and so many people in the chat have said about PSR and how frustrating it is. And it is. And this is what's even more frustrating about it is what came out about Man United today. And I'll take the comments off really quickly just before I do that. Martin Ziegler is wrote a piece saying about Man United have made a loss last season that's bigger than the required amount. And there's some caveats to that in terms of their losses and the situation that they're in. But it's so frustrating that like nothing gets said about any of the other clubs, and the pressure it seems to be all on Newcastle United. And we're not the ones with 600 million plus worth of debt. We've got 0 debt. We're in a position where we can go and spend what we want. It's so frustrating that we're not. And we have to worry about situations like Isaac Hayden. We had to hope and pray that we could find a deal that Ryan Fraser could leave on a free to Southampton just to get rid of his wages. We've got a player, in all due respect, Matt Target, that we paid the best part of 15 million for, who's reportedly on anywhere between 80 and 100,000 pounds a week. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it keeps being reported that that's the case. This is what we're having to deal with. We're having to deal with this situation just so we can wait and sign the players that we want to sign. But look, little side question with regards to this. Eddie Howe, Paul Mitchell, they coexist, they work together, they put a plan together of who they're going to attack moving forward. Let's think positively now. In your opinion, boys, come January the 1st, are we going to be making signings? In your opinion, Johnny, what do you think? Are we going to be making signings in January to boost this squad in a way that we didn't do in the summer?
I think we have to. I'm not saying that we should. We have to because look, we already know. I think Renty touched on it before. It's going to be like November the 6th, and we're already going to hear Mark Gay's the only option for Newcastle X, Y, and Z. But we have to. We have to improve that right-hand side in terms of the right winger. We have to improve defensively, whether that be Mark Gay or anybody else. We need to look at all options rather than just one option. Again, I would also look at a striker, and it's only because we don't know what's going to happen with Callum Wilson, and Asula is still very, very raw. You know, we've got to think it's probably going to take him a full season under Eddie Howe to kind of get used to the level, used to the sound. Because with the greatest of respect to Sheffield United, it's a massive, massive increase in level of players around him right now, and it is going to take time. So again, and maybe another striker that you can keep an eye on, if not in January, in the summer, to kind of replace Wilson, because we don't know what's going to happen, as I've mentioned. But the right wing is really important for me, because we've got Harvey Barnes we saw a little bit of him on the right against Nottingham Forest in the Cup, but it's Gordon that's kind of been not sacrificed, but because he can do a job on the right, but we're not playing Gordon in his strongest position. So I think we need to really nail down a really good right winger. Someone that could just go in ready-made and go, right, this is what we expect from this right winger. Is Anthony Elanga that? I think he's a good player, but I'm not convinced.
Is he 50 million? Is he 50 million?
Not in my opinion. Not in my opinion. But again, Nottingham Forest. Well, it's the same with, like, for example, Dom Solanke from Bournemouth when he went to Tottenham. He was worth 65 million at Bournemouth. Elanga may be worth 50 million for Forest, but we've got to. I think we've got to look a bit further afield than just, Nottingham and South London. No disrespect to Specs and Funby, because I think they're from London. But anyway, but in all seriousness, but yeah, we've got. I think right winger. Let's prioritize a really, really good right winger, someone that we can go right. We know this player's going to go in and just rip it up in the Premier League and can work with ease. I can work with Gordon, can work with Barnes, can work with X, Y, and Z, Wilson, whoever, Bruno. So just so we can kind of go, right, if a Miggy and a Murphy have to come in for the odd couple of games, that's fine, because we know this player, when he comes back from maybe the odd injury or whatever, can just go, right, we trust him entirely. But yeah, if it's priority, right winger, centre half, striker, as long as we don't lose our big guns.
I really, really think we will sign Anthony Elanga in January now. We will definitely go back in for him, and I can see it happening. I can't believe.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm deadly serious. I'm being
Really?
deadly serious. I think we'll sign Anthony Elanga in January. I can't
You don't
believe
sound happy
Forest
about it,
in-
Matt.
Nah, I tell you what, it stinks of an Eddie Howe signing, because it's an Anthony Gordon 2.0 where everyone looks at it and goes, "What the hell's that? Why are you spending that much money on him?" But I actually really like Anthony Elanga. I don't like him enough to be my first target as a right winger, but I think he is a good player with a high ceiling, which Eddie Howe could get out of. But it's not one that blows me away. Like I said, I think he's good, but I don't think he's great. I think there's better options out there, and I just can't believe that Forest turned down £50 million for him. And the only reason they did that is because they couldn't afford to go into their season without a right winger there. If that offer had came in July, they would have took it, no doubt about it. They paid, what was it, 15 million for him a year and a half ago from Man United. So they would be laughing. We know their FFP situation. They could do with that money. But they know that if they sold Elanga, they're in deeper relegation battle than they already would be with them. So they couldn't afford to sell him. If we go back in January, I reckon we'll end up getting him for about 40 mil. And I don't think it'll be good money spent, to be honest with you.
This is crazy.
Because we try to get him. Remember, we try to get him for the Anderson deal, and they weren't having that either.
That's why it's crazy. That's
clearly
why it's
a top target.
That we could have evened that out. We could have evened that score out by getting 35 million for Elliot Anderson, and then we could have paid something similar for Anthony Elanga. And this is the frustration, is that now you're saying we'll go back in with a lesser bid, 40 million. I'm not going to lie, guys, and I don't know what your opinions are on this. For me, Matty just said it. Forest paid 15 million for him. He's a decent striker. What, he got 14 goal contributions last season? Not bad. Certainly better than Miggy and Murphy. But 40 million? 50 million? For me, I'm not paying anything more than 25, in my opinion. For a player of that ability, I'm not paying anything more than 25. I don't see it. Talented player. He's obviously got links. He's good friends with Isaac. There was rumours that they've been talking over the course of the international break. So that might well come into it, Matty, from what you're saying. But
did you see Elanga's interview when he was asked about coming to Newcastle? My God, he was desperate for it, like, wasn't he? Honestly, he wasn't doing the usual like, oh, I'm committed to Forest, see me future here. He was like, please come and get me. Do you know what I mean? He was begging for it, man. Absolutely loved it. He was just saying, oh, it's an absolute pleasure to be linked with such a big club. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it either, mate. But here we are.
You guys are rude, though. You guys are rude, man, because the same talk was Noni Madueke was like, I'm not thrilled. He bagged a hat trick. Let's go and get him.
Yeah.
Like, if MP Langa's on fire to December, everyone's going to be like, might as well give him a try.
To be fair, you probably see that. Well, you won't actually. Will we play Forest before January? I don't know the fixtures. But remember last year, he played his best game of his life against us. And I think that's still in Eddie Howe's memory. Boxing Day, he was unbelievable. So,
yeah.
There you go.
It goes back full circle. Sorry to interrupt, Pete.
No, go for it.
But we're talking about Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell. This is an Eddie Howe signing. X and said, well, what's Paul Mitchell doing? When does he come into this equation? When do we go? Naughty like that. But no, when does he come to that? Does he just go, all right, yeah, ready? I'll watch 5 games or 6 games of Anthony Elanga this season for you, and then we'll go back and then we'll give you another play. But no, we'll go back for Anthony Elanga. This is what I mean. He might be a half decent player, and he might really want to fancy getting a massive house in Darras Hall. But surely there's other options, there's better options, and maybe there's a gem out of there where you can go like a Bruno Guimaraes, 35 million out of nowhere, and go, wow, what have we got here? But it's full circle with Paul Mitchell. What does he do? Does he sit there and just
But that's a good point, though.
Watch the games for the banter.
Yeah, because that point you made. See, what I think is I think Paul Mitchell, just assuming on a personal one, he's coming in, and he kind of said it as well. I think in his interview, or he kind of like made a little comment. Like, we know what he does best, did it? You see him bringing the likes of Mane's and all those guys who are unknown commodities before. I think he wants to try and implement that. He said, look at other databases, overseas, probably cheaper players can set them on for more if need be. I think Claire G, when the moderator said it in the chat, he's got a knack for doing that. But it's all about if Eddie, that's why the coexisting thing is the question. Is he up for all that? Because he said, no, I'm only here for a supporting role. He tried to make that clear, to indirectly say, I'm not trying to take full control. I heard even Steve Nixon's got a bit of an issue with this whole situation as well. So that's another tricky one in that. But I think he's looking to try and get some overseas players and not always look at the obvious, the Langas and the panic buys and the Gerhies. Do you get what I'm saying? I think that's what he wants to try to implement. And I'm up for that, to be honest. But it's going to take time.
And this is the thing. This is kind of why I asked the question, is that, we didn't get anyone in the summer window, and that's fine. Obviously, for me personally, I felt that the 4 week Paul Mitchell had 2 weeks to get his signings, get himself his feet under the table, get himself sort of accustomed to the club and everything that was going on after that. He had then 4 weeks to secure that signing, whether it was Mark Gay or somebody else. It didn't happen. I was frustrated by it, and I was annoyed because we needed it, because we're undercooked as a squad. In my opinion, we are. I'll pull up the board in a second, and we can take a look at it ourselves. We are undercooked, but I was hopeful moving forward. I'm not going to lie, Matty, you've thrown me, because it's saying that we're going to go back into Anthony Elanga in January, or even Mark Gay. I mean, Mark Gay kind of makes sense for me. Because his contract's running down. If he's still playing well for Palace in England, his value will drop. So it'll be nowhere near that 70 by the time we get to January that we can get him. So we can get him at a more realistic price, closer to his true value, in my opinion. So it's not the worst thing in the world going back in for him. But what I'm expecting, and look, Josh, you've not had a really opinion on this, so I'll come to you on this. I'm kind of expecting Paul Mitchell to put his stamp on this window with exactly what you just said, looking at European-based players, looking at those players that you can get on a good deal. What his CV ultimately says. I'm expecting this. I'm not expecting an Anthony Elanga coming to Newcastle United. And you know what? I'm not surprised he's jumping for the fact that he wants to come to Newcastle United. I'm not surprised by it at all. The opportunity to come to Newcastle United, where he's going to be fighting top half of the table and pushing for Europe, I expect that. But I don't expect Newcastle United to go back into him. So, Josh, what's your take on that?
On Anthony Elanga and himself, I've been very, very bipolar. Like, half of his looks back to that Boxing Day performance and, oh my God, his pace, it's electrifying. Let's not kid ourselves. But his end product, week in, week out, consistently, is it there? He's not exactly, banging them in. However, though, don't get me wrong, he's young. There is a player there for sure, undoubtedly. But £50 million, and I know it was, very much on the brink of deadline day, but £50 million for Anthony Elanga, honestly, if that was actually true, and I know it was reported by quite a credible source, it's absolutely ridiculous. And like what Specs was saying, I want us to look further than just predominantly domestically. Yes, some of our best buys, your Dan Burns, your Lewis Halls, Tino's even, Anthony Gordon, have been domestically. But you look at our best signings for value-wise, Sven Botman, although a kind of ropey season last season due to injuries, Kieran Trippier, what a bargain for the impact he's had on Newcastle United. You look all over the team, Alexander Isak, the list goes on. We do need to look further than just England. The two players that we've been linked with the most domestically have been Gehi and Anthony Elanga. And in my opinion, both have been way overpriced. There's no way I'd even pay £65 million for Mark Gehi. I do think he's a very, very good defender. He's a ball-playing defender. He's strong, great in the air. However, it's ridiculous. I know he's an England international. I know Palace will want us to pay more, but yet again, that's ridiculous. However, in the transfer window, January, to be more specific, I would want Newcastle United to go big. Maybe not on Anthony Elanga. Yes, I do like him, but I want a higher caliber of a right winger. We've seen Federico Chiesa, although what people will point the finger towards first, them injury issues. He went to Liverpool for, what was it, £13 million. You've got a Euro winner there, and although Newcastle United aren't in Europe, he won't be playing 2 times a week. That would have been an unbelievable buy. Miggy can play the Carabao Cup games. Chiesa could have played the Premier League, rotate them, whatever. But I do want Newcastle United to go big in the January transfer window. Yet again, it will be hard, especially Premier League teams like your Palaces, like your Forests, will want us to cough up more money since it is midway through the season. Nottingham Forest might have some relegation issues at that time. But yes, I do want Newcastle United to go big and further searching than domestically.
Straight up.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Right, I'm going to switch tact. We're going to talk about something else. Look, Josh, we'll stick with you on this one. I know you'll definitely have an opinion on this. Where do you rank Newcastle United's strongest midfield three in comparison to the rest of the Premier League? So I'm putting our midfield three as these three bad boys: Joe Linton, Bruno, and Sandro Tonali. And that's how I expect it to start on Sunday against Wolves. But where do you guys rank that in terms of the best that the Premier League has to offer? So, Josh, I'll come to you first. Where do you rank that midfield three in comparison to the Premier League? In what position?
Blimey. What a midfield three. Before we even say anything, 3 unbelievable players in their own aspect as well. They are quite different footballers, aren't you? You've got Sandro Tonali, that elegant, subtle first touch passing, unbelievable footballer. You know how much I love Sandro Tonali. Thank God he's back. Bruno Guimaraes, the less said the better. Unbelievable. We'll keep it at that. And Joe Linton, he's a good footballer, but he's more so just a bit of a bully, isn't he, to the other team? Anyways, Man City first, without a shadow of a doubt. In my opinion, I think they've got the best midfield, the best player in the world in their midfield, Rodri. However, after that, I think we've got a better midfield than Manchester United. I think we've got a better midfield than Spurs. Chelsea, even though they've spent a lot of money on their midfield, it hasn't clicked for obvious reasons. However, I think we may be, I would like to say, third in the Premier League. I think Arsenal is second, and Liverpool, as it is right now, Gravenberch, an unbelievably talented footballer. They are yet to see him at best. At club level, McAllister, yet again, a very good midfielder. Szoboszlai, they've even got Endo in there. But as it stands right now, and I know we haven't exactly seen the best of this midfield three with Tonali, Joelinton, and Bruno, but just let it pan out. Every single footballer there they are unbelievable. And in my opinion, they are the third best midfield trio in the Premier League, only behind Manchester City and Arsenal.
Totally agree. I think it's bang on. You kind of take the superstars like Odegaard and Rice and that, you know what I mean? They're the level above. Then, as we all know, Rodri, one of the elites. So I think we're right there. Right amongst it. But for a fact, Longstaff's going to start against Wolves. Pete, so you want to get your hopes down, mate?
Don't do this to me. Honestly, do you guys think Longstaff is look? Longstaff is
Look, Pete. Before you get on Longstaff, like we said, like Josh just said, we haven't seen the best of this midfield trio just yet. So we can't be singing their praises just yet. And Joe Linton's been having a sham in the midfield for the past 2 games. So I need them to play first before I can start tooting my horn. Now, to Sean Longstaff, I do want him to be dropped on Sunday. But if he's not dropped, I'm not going to be mad. Because he saw that Tonali performance. He went straight to the training camp. You saw him post on the weekend, right? He was working on the 1-2s. You know what I mean? So I do want Tonali to start. But if we have to trust Eddie, if he starts Sean Longstaff, it can't be your mum. You've got to go with him until Longstaff is thinking out the joint. Then we can see Tonali come in. But I just feel like if Longstaff gets the nod, he deserves it. He didn't gamble a whole season.
Yeah, I would go back to your first question, Pete. I think Josh is definitely right about the Manchester City midfield. You put Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, and Bernardo Silva in that midfield. You think, yeah, as much as we're biased towards Newcastle, I'd love to say, nah, they're not as good as the 3 that you put on screen. They are the creme de la creme. Let's be brutally honest. I agree with Matty that Longstaff does start on Sunday and Tonali will be on the bench. But what I think was brilliant was that Tonali got 2 games for Italy. As much as we criticise the international break and Daz has ran scared because Ireland got beat off England, that's why he's not here tonight. But no, in all seriousness, it was good for Tonali to get good minutes under his belt. That's almost like an extra pre-season for him to kind of get the minutes, obviously from the ban. But when I look at that 3, we did a video, Sam and I, on there. What day was it? Monday. That midfield fires Newcastle to the Champions League if they stay fit and there's no injuries because they're that good. You've got, like Josh mentioned, they're all a little bit different, but that's the beauty of it. The fact they are a little bit different. I'm interested to see how Eddie Howe will use all 3 of them when they do get a bit of momentum, and how we'll see that happen. Because I think, we'll see some really, really good football between Bruno and Tonali, and Joelinton is, of course, that enforcer, but does have, he does have that extra bit in the locker as well. So it will be fascinating. It will be really fascinating. But again, if Longstaff comes on for 20, 25 minutes, I don't think he's been that bad. I thought he had a really good second half of the season. I thought he started this season pretty well, I have to be honest. I think he was probably the best midfielder against Bournemouth because Joelinton gave the ball. I thought Bruno was all right in spells, but I don't think Sean Longstaff done a lot wrong in the first 4 games. But he's an easy target because he's not got the sexiest name. He's not a Sandro Tonali from Milan. He's Sean Longstaff from North Shields, and he shouldn't be judged on like that because he's been pretty good for the last 12 months or so. But when he makes a mistake, it just seems to be magnified even more. But but what you got Willock, you've got who else you got? You've got Lewis Miley, who had an excellent few games as well last season. There's so many different midfielders that we've got there, and I probably forgot to mention others, but we have got an array of talent in that position. So I'm not worried about it. But if you're talking about who's the best three, they're the best three, and they're probably second or third best in the Premier League. I agree with Josh.
You've just mentioned it. You talked about the likes of Lewis Miley, Sean Longstaff, and Joe Willock. That's your underbelly of your midfield. After your top midfield three, that's not a bad three as an alternative to come in if there is any injuries or if you want to rest one or two players here and there. So we're not in the worst position for that. But you've just made a point, lads, when you were talking about it earlier. I can't remember who mentioned it, but someone mentioned about Joe Linton not really having a great couple of games. And I'm putting it out there. It's just a thought. With Sean Longstaff not playing too bad and having a decent start to the season, which he has, is there any realms of possibility that he replaces Joe Linton and Sandro comes in on the right and Longstaff goes in on the left? Is that a possibility? Or does Sandro come in for Joe Linton on that left-hand side, because he played there for Italy mostly on the left-hand side, particularly in the first game against France, the left-hand side of that midfield three? Is there a possibility that the change that Eddie Howe makes? I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but what are your thoughts on that? That's up to you.
Yeah, well, first of all, big up to Sean Longstaff here, because he's Newcastle through and through. You get me? I'm not born and bred in Newcastle, but he's homegrown, and you get what I'm saying. I'm sure when he goes out there, he does try his best all the time. But let's keep it 100. Sean Longstaff ain't it, so I'm not having that. But big up to him. As for Joe Linton, the only real stinker I think he really had was against Bournemouth. He was absolutely fucking, bro. Let's keep it real. But other than that, these things happen. It's the start of the season. Now, people might not agree with me now, where on paper, I agree with Josh, that three you put up, I think on paper, just about third as the best midfield. You still got Lewis Miley. Joe Willock, for me, slightly underrated. I think he's a big miss for the squad.
Back in training.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, because I really like Joe Willock. But for me, I'm just interested and I'm waiting to see. As the look of parents, I've seen them together in the early stages before Tonali's ban. I'm not so comfy with Bruno and Tonali playing together. I'll keep it real with you, bro. I'm not comfy. I don't. From what I saw, that was the early stages. Only a few games, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. That link up and what positions they play in with Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes. That will be interesting. So that's more my take on it, to be honest with you. And Tonali was absolutely cooking against France. Like, this guy, so far he's back. I almost forgot how good he was. Like, obviously from the AC Milan days, almost thought, bro, have we really got this guy? Like, he's hungry. He's not playing, bro. He was cooking. And like you said, he kind of played on that left-hand side. That's interesting. And so, knowing Eddie, though, I think he will start Longstaff. I don't know why. I think Eddie would, Eddie likes to do that. He's like, no, take your time, put you on the bench and bring you in. I hope he starts him. To be honest, but we'll see.
And this is why I'm asking the question, is because you've seen him play so well against France. You've said it absolutely spot on, Specs. He looked like his AC Milan performances. That's why we spent the money on him. He looked like that against France. And then he comes in again, I think it was against Israel, and he plays another good game as well. And he's played those 2 95 minutes and another 90 minutes in a short few days. He's fit. He's already proven it. He's ready to go. Can we afford to have a player of that ability not start away from home? And away from home was our bad form last season. We were shocking away from home for long parts of the season. Can we afford to go into that game on a kind of, you've had a decent start, well done, Sean Longstaff, or Joe Linton, you're normally good for us, so we're going to play you because you're normally playing well for us? Can we afford to leave a player of that ability out? That's why I'm asking the question, because
He made me real, though, because he played. Sorry, he made me real because he played basically the 290 minutes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
No, how Eddie moves, I'm not sure what hurried Eddie's mind, but the whole way he's like, how he kind of sugarcoated him slowly back into the whole setup. Obviously, get match fitness, and obviously he's fit, but match fitness, he looks match fit to me anyway. But since he's played those games, maybe Eddie might just want to be careful. You see what happened to all Odegaard and Calafiori and all that. You get what I'm saying? So I'm a bit like, even I see Isaac playing for so many minutes, I get pissed off. I'm like, nah, man, take him off, bro. You get what I'm saying? And then Tonali, yeah, he cooked, but I was like, take time with him. But yeah, it all depends on the player as well. But I don't think Eddie, I was assuming he will start him on the bench. I hope he doesn't. Because Tonali, while he's on that form and that confidence and he's ready to go, and like you said, our away form ain't been that great. You get what I'm saying, of late. So it'll be interesting.
Eddie's gonna look at it this week. And I look at it as Tonali's played 2 games this week, but I've been training with Shaw Longstaff every day for 2 weeks at Benton. You know what I mean? He's been with him every day at the training ground. He's ready to go. You'll think Tonali, you've had 2 games. You know, one was away and all that. You know, a bit of traveling and all that. You take it easy, son. Sure it is. We've got 3 games next week. We've got Fulham away. We've got Wimbledon away. You just sit on the bench, brush your hair. Everything's gonna be all right. This is Wolves report. Yeah, they are wank. So we'll be all right. Do you know what I mean? If this was Man City away, I'd be like, right, Tonali, we're going to need you. Yeah. But this is Wolves. We can play long stuff. It's all right.
I'm with you.
I'm going to take
You know
your
what?
word.
There's no world, by the way, where we don't play Joe Linton. There's no world. I don't care how bad he's been. He plays.
Yeah.
They have to figure out between Longstaff and Tonali. Joe Linton plays. He has to play.
All day long.
Well, look, you're kind of filling me with confidence, Matty, with what you said. Expecting a win. We need a win big time. We need to get that away from back up and running, particularly with the fact that we've got Wolves and then Fulham back-to-back away games. We need to get those points on the board. I've got a few questions.
I want to say something, Pete. I want to say something. Everyone's talking about we can't afford to have someone like Tonali on the bench. We have a bigger problem. We can't afford to have Harvey Barnes on the bench. Those 2 players there, Harvey Barnes can score from that left-hand side. He is very good on that left-hand side. I was watching it thinking, who's this? When did we sign this guy? Because he is actually better than I actually thought he was in terms of his finishing and his understanding on that left. So we're going to have to figure that out because we can't have Gordon and Fingy both of them have to play somehow.
Well, they're both proven they can play on the right-hand side. Both Gordon and Barnes. Now, they both prefer to play on the left, but they can both play on the right. Now, I would say that Barnes is proven he can play better on that right-hand side. Yeah. You can play anyone there, I'd play him there. But look, this is a side question, boys. Are we starting Barnes? Does Barnes have to start against Wolves?
No, absolutely.
100%. And the thing is, it's not a case that one of them has to start on the left, one of them has to start on the right. Sometimes you see wingers that will just go 20 minutes in. Look, I'm not really getting much joy here. Do you want to switch us for 15, 20 minutes just till half time or whatever? That's not necessarily a bad thing. And because one fullback thing, I've got a beating at you. And then they'll go, shit, I've got Harvey Barnes now and I'm not too sure how to deal with this. You know, the thing is as well with Harvey Barnes is that this is almost like another big test for him because, again, injuries properly rocked his season last year. But I can't exaggerate the point regarding that goal against Tottenham. It is such a good finish. It's such an underrated finish. Yep. It's so good. To the cross coming at that pace and to get his body out to connect it, to get it away from Vicario, that's such a good finish. But you always feel like with Harvey Barnes, like before he signed for Newcastle, he was always scoring goals against Villa, Wolves, like West Brom when they were in the Prem. Like I just have that image in my head of just him scoring goals in the Midlands. So I think he's definitely, as long as he doesn't get injured in training, he's guaranteed to start. But he's had a good start this season as well. I thought he was unlucky not to start against Southampton, to be honest. I thought like Murphy got the nod, but thought he did well in pre-season, Barnes. So yeah, just keep it going.
No, definitely. Look, we're going to finish off with some questions just to wrap up the show. And I've got a question for you boys, and in particular, Matty, I'm going to come to you because I know you've got an opinion on this. I watched your video on this, and I thought you made some really good points, and it's about the news that we're hoping to hear sometime soon, and it's about St. James's Park. Are we redeveloping St. James's Park? Are we moving into a new stadium? What do we want? situation. I asked you boys when we were talking about this around March time, we kind of brought this up as a question. What do we want in this situation? Do we want St. James's Park to be redeveloped, or do we want a new stadium? What do we need? Matty, I'm going to come to you first. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's 2 points to that. What you just said there. What do you want and what do you need are two very different things for me. What I want in an ideal world is to extend St James's Park. If you could do up the East Stand, if you could do up the Gallagher, we all know there's loads of issues around that. East Stand, the great list of buildings, Gallagher, the road, the hospital, the stacks now there for a few years. Club shops just getting done out. All of this, right? The Euros is coming. So that's looking quite unlikely unless it's only going to be another 5, 7, 8,000, which we'll find out soon because the feasibility study that's been conducted for the last 2 and a bit years should be out in the next month or so. But what we need with FFP and PSR is a new stadium. That is what you need, because that's the only way we can really increase our revenue to a decent amount so we can battle financial fair play, to be honest with you. You've seen what the difference between what Tottenham and their stadium makes on a match day between Newcastle United's is monumental. And that across the season is huge. And I think when you get a new stadium, I think the Saudis want one. I think the Saudis want one from the get-go. They want a brand new shiny stadium to show off to the world. Look at how big and powerful we are. Let's have it the Aramco Arena, whatever you want to call it. And then we can make another 40 million a year. And you get more on ticket sales, more on hospitality, more on sponsors. That's just the way I think it'll go. And that's kind of what you need to compete with. Even look at Man U now, the way they're going to get out of this little, problem that they're having that you put on the screen earlier is, oh, by the way, Old Trafford's getting done up, or Old Trafford's going to get rebuilt, and then, there you go, bang, there's another couple $100 million a year. So we've seen what everyone's doing. Liverpool have been extending Anfield for the past 2-3 seasons. I think it's inevitable long term, to be honest with you, a new stadium. But what I would want, because the history and the memories of St James's Park, would be to extend it.
Anyone else got any thoughts on the stadium? Anyone changed? I know, Johnny, you were very kind of pro stay at St James's Park. Have you kind of, is your opinion changed over that point? Are you still very much the same?
Only marginally. I agree with Renty in the sense, what do we need as a club right now, and what do I really want? I'm very much the same as Renty. I want us to stay at Newcastle United. I hope this feasibility study shows actually we can do this, and this to do that. And I do, because I think that's one of Newcastle United's biggest selling points, is its USP, where it is. I would love it to be there. The reason why it's probably dropped a couple of percent, I would not be against, because the biggest question, like Renty didn't mention it, and it just kind of popped into my head, was if we're going to have a new stadium, where the hell is it going to be? Because there's been so much speculation that you can't have it near the utility. You can have it near the utility. There's not many other places like in Newcastle that you can really put a stadium, let's say 70,000 for argument's sake, when Newcastle is like, in terms of what we have right now, it's 52, 53,000 at this moment in time. You don't really need to do a great deal with it to get to that certain level. And again, the only can you put a new stadium on Leazes Park? I don't know. I'm not an expert, obviously. That's the problem. Where are you going to put this new stadium? Because if it's going to look like it's going to be outside of Newcastle, for me, you're probably looking like your Gosforth ways where there's a bit more land. Is that really why you want a new stadium? Not for me, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I don't know what the others think, but that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. If let's say if it was at Leazes Park and it's, a new state-of-the-art 70-odd thousand seat stadium, whatever, then extremely reluctantly, I would probably say yes to it. But if it's not, and we can do bits and pieces to make St James's a little bit better, then I don't see any point in moving, in my opinion.
This is a valid point as well, just to think about it, just to add to the kind of thought, is that, Chelsea are now looking at moving away from Stamford Bridge. They're looking at developing a new big stadium. And look, their stadium's always been quite small. I think it's only like 30, 35,000. It's not big, but they're going to go big. If they're going to do a brand new stadium, they're going to go 60, 70,000. They're going to try and absolutely maximize it to the hill to make sure that they get all the things that Tottenham have got, like you've just mentioned. So to add to that, anyone else got any thoughts on the stadium?
I'll quickly jump in, lads.
The stadium
Go on, mate.
Oh, go on. I was just going to say, I think it's premature, like, to talk about a new stadium. I think the team needs more stability. We need to build a team that's sustainable in the top four first before we can start thinking, shifting our attention to a new stadium. Because if you look at Arsenal and Tottenham, when they built new stadiums, they went through heavy transitional periods, and we're still in a transitional period. So I think the talk is premature. However, I'm not from Newcastle. I support Newcastle. So I know a group of fans would have some kind of nostalgia to St. James's Park, and it would hurt them to take it anyway, even just next door. Do you know what I mean? Going outside of Newcastle already is like, yeah, is that St. James's Park? And I don't know. But if we were to get, I'd prefer we expand, like Matty said, and we expand the actual St. James's Park and keep it there. That's what I would prefer if we were going down the new stadium route. But I do think it is not on the cards yet because we have so much to do. We have Hayden in the team. We can't build a new stadium when you have Isaac Hayden still on the books.
Blunt but honest opinions there. I like it. Josh, what's your perspective before we move on?
Honestly, mate, I'm not even going to try to beat around the bush. Do not move from St. James's Park. I swear to God, for weeks on end, I'd bawl my eyes out. And look, Matty, Jonathan, everyone, yous have got way more of an input than me for being a Newcastle United fan for longer. I've only had my season ticket for the 4th season running now, but oh my, I know we would have to for financial fair play. I know that is how we compete with the big boys, the revenue. We need to keep that coming in. That's how Man United do have that kind of unfair, freedom to get all these big money players in because their revenue with the kit sales, it's unbelievable. They are a worldwide club. But it would absolutely break me. Genuinely, like, is a match going fan, and the majority of people it would as well. It's just St. James's Park. It's got that tradition. The atmosphere is unbelievable. We've seen what happened with the Ball-In ground and is it the Olympic Stadium? I think the new one's called for West Ham. Sorry, I don't know that. But their atmosphere now, their fans, it's quite infamously known. The atmosphere it's basically not there. The Ball-In ground was a very, very noisy ground back in the day. I don't want that to happen to St. James's Park. If there was some sort of way, I don't know how this would be possible, but we could see what the stadium is like before, maybe a futuristical look into how the stadium would be, where it would be, the location. You could come to terms with it, but as a match-going fan, it would absolutely break me to move away from St. James's Park. It's beautiful. It's an arm's length away from any pub you want to go to. There's food there. There's the nightclubs if you want to go out after the game. The bus transport, it gets you home in around 20 minutes. Honestly, it's so perfect. And in the modern game, when players are going for 100 million, 200 million pounds, sporting directors are getting talking about more than football players. St. James's Park, it's your bread and butter, and it would break me to move from there. Although, in the back of my head, we might have to bite that bullet one day.
Yeah, we might have to. Lots of people in the chat are talking about a new stadium. Their kind of mindset is that, and I think it's about seats. It's about getting tickets. I think it's about a number of those things where people are looking at a new stadium will give more of an opportunity, and the season tickets, as Josh just mentioned. I think fans would definitely be wanting to benefit from that. I'm going to go around some questions for you all individually, all on different things. Some are aimed at you, some are just aimed in general. But a couple of comments just to begin with. Specs, you mentioned about not being a Geordie but being a Newcastle fan, and Gary D said you are a Geordie just like myself, Bumby, Daz, Chris on the channel. You're all one of us. So big up to Gary for that as well. And you got a friend in the channel from your own channel, Johnny, come to join us. Long time subscriber, first time in the comments. That's a lie. He's been in the comments before. He's lying. But question there: does Johnny still think we should take 9 million for Joe Linton?
He's wrong. He's already wrong on that, Pete. Because I definitely said I wouldn't take 9 million for him. It was 10 million actually. It was after the first season. I think it was actually the first 2 seasons. I was just like, oh my god. If he said would I take 10 million for Joe Linton as a number 9, then that might be a different question. But look, I'm happy to be proven wrong on that. And honestly, I really am happy about that because I think we all thought this could be Newcastle's biggest ever flop for so many different reasons for those first 2 seasons. But My God, what a transformation! And I'm honestly, I'm so happy to be absolutely proven wrong on that, because I didn't see him as the player that we now have him as. But some of the moments, man, some of the moments he's had in a Newcastle shirt since pretty much since Eddie Howe's walked through the door. My God, some of the best moments as a Newcastle fan. So very happy to be proven wrong. But no, I would definitely not 9 million. Oh, at least 10.
Put that one out there. Specs, I'll come to you. David says, question for the panel: would you sell Trippier as an asset? Or do you see Trippier, I think, as an asset that we can sell? Like, would you sell him in January? There's lots of talk that we wanted to go. We've kept him. We've told him he needs to stay. Would you be selling him in January, or would you be keeping him until the end of the season?
As it stands, I think our squad is thin as it is already, to be honest with you. And he doesn't. I know it's about can he make a little money and etc. etc. But for me, just his presence, his experience alone. Yes, we got Tino and the young boys, but I think to have a bit of an old guard, know how head to still be there, I wouldn't be sending him in January unless it was a must to do other stuff, which I doubt because we got money to spend. Since you would have splashed out 75 on Gurhey and 50 on Elanga. But just for I'm not done with Trippier yet, man. I've heard a few people, like say, oh, we got Tino now. It's time for Trippier to move on. Like, it's so dismissive. It's like, damn, like we can be so fickle sometimes. He comes in and it's like, oh, bye, we don't need you now. It's like, damn, like chill. You get me? I still think he's got something to offer, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch. There's no rush to sell Trippier, not for me anyway. Not in this season. Maybe like see out the whole season. Then we go back to drawing board. But for now, January, nah, trust me. I think we need to, because especially in the January window, we don't know how it's going to go anyway. So yeah, just keep our squad. You know what I mean? Nah, he's cool.
Is there anyone on the panel that would sell him in January?
I wouldn't mind selling him in January. Because the reason being, not because I don't like him, he actually wants to go. Like you can see in his face, he doesn't want to be second. He doesn't like the idea that Liverpool's ahead of him. But he's doing the professional thing. But he wants to go. And so if that's the case, in January, if we can get a good offer, I'll let him go. But it's just because he wants to go.
Yeah, but if he's professional, whether he wants to go or not, you got to abide by his contract. As long as he's professional.
No, you can't say that. You can't say that because everybody wants Mickey to get the hell out because they don't like him. They're only saying that now because of what he did to us the other day. Last season, everyone was saying, get him out of here. He's done. So you can't turn around and say, you go on your contract. Well, not you.
Yeah. I can't people there.
Yeah, a lot of the fan base were like, Trippier's done. They were telling him, Liverpool's the guy. They don't want to see him.
They say that, well, for me, I remember on this same channel, it was asking, is Tino ready now? Or, yeah. And I said, for the last time he was on here, I said, no, Tino is not for the future. He's now and the future. You get what I'm saying? Tino's ready. I heard a lot of people say he's done, especially after that. Like last season, with he was poor. Let's keep it real, innit? Said he's finished and all that. I don't think. I hear you. If he doesn't want to be here, but if you're professional, I would keep an asset like him for now. But I hear what you're saying though, on that sense. But
you can play right back though. Everyone's forgetting about Kraft, bro. Kraft player of the month this season so far. Look how although he's not great at passing out the back, don't get it twisted. But he has been such a good reliability.
It's though, bro, for me. Even though we're not in Europe here, I don't trust our injuries. I don't know who is been a medical staff or who's getting paid or making a living, bro. But trust me, I'm actually that's why I'm concerned about this whole window. I think it's criminal. I don't care what's going on. To not get no signings in is criminal, bro. And we've got the whole season to go ahead. January, if it's the same.
That's why Eddie fought for Trippier though. That's why Eddie said he's not going because he's like, I can see I don't have enough cover, but I can see on Trippier's face, man. Just look at when Trippier first signed for us. I was on his Instagram and on his after interviews. He loved Newcastle. Now it's just a little quiet thing. It's just so quiet. Like it's not. It's like we broke up, but we've not moved out the house yet. You know what I mean?
And so quickly for all of you, yeah, because nobody spoke about it. Maybe I'm missing something. How come how Bruno the captain on the pitch? How come how can I put it, bro? Obviously, Trippier's not starting every game, but how come he's not? He's actually vice captain now. Is that correct, Trippier?
Yeah. I don't think he's vice captain. Okay.
Yeah, I think back. So I thought Trippier was going to be actual. I know they got the club captain and all that little different stuff. I thought Trippier would have been the captain. He's not starting. So I'm starting to think, is that part of it as well? Does anyone think that's part of the? If you think he's not too happy, like, right, I'm not playing, I'm not even captain. Bruno, you get what I'm saying? I don't know.
That's a lot to take on, though. That's a lot to take on, especially when he was the first signing, like the first Avenger. Now all of a sudden it's like we don't know him no more. You know? So yeah, that was a lot to take on his chest.
Yeah,
I do think that situation could have been handled better.
Much better.
There was no official. There was no official passing. The thing I said it on our channel before. I said it on a previous show. There was no official passing of the torch, and the fact that it came out through a Northeast journalist and not through the club, I just find that really difficult to take. And I think if that's Trippier finding out from a news article, or having it presented as news to the fans from a news article rather than an official kind of handover, I just think it could have been handled better. But you've just solved the problem. If Trippier's not going to start, why do this big announcement that Bruno's going to be captain? Just have him on the bench and have Bruno wear the armband anyway, because he's the guy moving forward. That means that there's no taking or removing of the armband. It means that Bruno can still be captain, and then you've got your chain of command that way. In Lascelles, and everyone else is vice, and you could have done it that way.
Unless they're trying to keep Bruno sweet, because there's been a lot of noise around him with the Man City thing, and that ain't no false narrative. That's a real thing. Do not ever get it twisted. I think that could be part of it. Like, bro, we're gonna do anything. Don't get damn about Trippier. We're gonna sweeten you wherever you want, mate. Get me captain. You're the man. You're Mr. Newcastle. Do you get what I'm saying? He's a fan's favorite, by the way. Let's keep it real. It's Bruno, so I think that's a part of it as well. I could be wrong.
I was kind of nervous at Bruno being captain until the Forest game during the penalty shootout. When he scored his penalty and he went over to Nick Pope and galvanized the fans, that's when we won the penalty shootout.
Yeah,
so I was like, okay, he could be captain. He could be captain.
Matt, I'm going to come to you with this one. last couple of questions. Question for the lads: are you liking the media overlooking us for top four, or do you think they're taking the piss? We're not being talked about as that team that could. We're talking about that's what we want to be, Champions League, but they're talking about Villas, Tottenham's, Man United, Chelsea's. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? How are you seeing it?
I feature on other channels, like They Are Sports and that. Obviously, it's very heavily London-based, and it's always the panel shows of the Man U fan, a Chelsea fan, a Liverpool fan, and an Arsenal fan. All of them, not one of them, had Newcastle anywhere near even the top six. So I was giving them stick. You're all sleeping on Newcastle yet again.
Yep.
You're all sleeping on them. The whole media was sleeping on them. BBC, I think I would finish 9th. Obviously, I do stuff with BBC. I was straight at them. Do you know what's going on here? 9th. Taking the piss. I mean, to be fair, I went a bit mad. I had us to finish 3rd in like July. I thought we were going to sign at least 2-3 players for the starting 11, right? So I immediately had to change that. I would go 4th or 5th now. I think we can still push it. And I'm surprised that people haven't learned to not sleep on Newcastle. I'm surprised they haven't learned and put respect on Eddie Howe and the team. Because let's remember, yes, we're complaining that this transfer window was poor. We didn't do enough business. But we've still got a better squad than the squad that finished 4th 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Tonali come back in. You got Harvey Barnes now. We haven't lost a major signing from the time when we finished 4th. So we are better than when we finished 4th. The only issue is that Aston Villa are better now. West Ham had a good window. Brighton had a good. So you know what I mean? That's the problem around you. But for me, top 4 is still on, man. Top 4, top 5, even 6, cup run.
Yeah, straight. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll throw this question out there because it's here anyway. So might as well ask the question. You talk about top 4 push. Obviously, we're still in the Carabao Cup. We've got a AFC Wimbledon in the next round. Boys, what we're doing, Funby, I'll come to you with this. What are we doing? Should we be playing our strongest team, considering we're only playing 1 game a week, other than the Carabao Cup? Should we be playing our strongest team against AFC Wimbledon, wiping the floor with them with our strongest team and moving on? Or should we be playing other players and giving them opportunities? And the question there says, should we be playing our best midfielders, Tonali, Joelinton and Bruno, against AFC Wimbledon?
No, we're playing Sean Longstaff, who's one of our best midfielders in that game. Osula should definitely start that game. I think that should be his first day. But the rest of the team should be pretty strong. I want us to win a cup this season or be in at least a couple finals. Top 4 is great, but people remember trophies. Man United had a terrible season last season. They won the FA Cup and said, this was a debate they were trying to have. Did we have a better season than Arsenal? For winning one trophy, bro, that's what that can do. So I would love us to finish in the top 4. I know everyone's sleeping on us. I like it that way. But I think, yes, against AFC Wimbledon, bring on the horses. I want 4-0 by 20 minutes. Then we can rest the rest of them and get them to have some sunshine. And then we can move on to the next game. Every game we have to take seriously. We are Newcastle United looking for glory days. So AFC Wimbledon is food. Remember last season? I swear our first 3 games was Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Chelsea. Like those were our fixtures in these cup games. So this is the time we have the opportunity to sacrifice someone. We take it.
No, fair point. Yano's mentioned about this Bondi bot that has a video out there of the potential expansion or rebuild or the options out there. I'm not sure if it's a recent video or a video from previous. Yano, let us know in the chat. Definitely might be worth a watch. He's been mentioning it to Josh and Johnny when we're talking about the stadiums as a video to watch on that one. I'll come to you with a couple of questions, Josh, to finish off. Graham Bailey, a Northeast journalist who comes on our show to talk transfers, mentioned that he felt Conor Gallagher was better than Joe Linton. I'm going to ask you that question. Do you think that? I think Johnny's response to that was quite interesting. What are your thoughts on this? Because David H likes to put this in our chat on every show that we do when we've got guests on. So, what are your thoughts?
I think you're now fine. Well, what my answer is, there's no way on planet. Yeah, don't get us wrong. I genuinely think Conor Gallagher was so overhated by Chelsea fans. He really, really reminds me of Sean Longstaff in Newcastle. He's got a good engine on him. He's English, you know, he grafts for his team, doesn't do that spectacular stuff. But no, the long story short, he's not on Joe Linton's level at all. In my opinion, I think Joe Linton is one of the best midfielders in the world. Yet again, I'll reiterate what I say every single time. He just epitomizes the intensity, the tenacity, the physical strength, what's required in Eddie Howe's system. And yet again, he just epitomizes his ability so well in that Newcastle side. But I'm not even going to blab on for any longer. No, definitely not, mate. No.
I knew the answer was going to come. And I think everyone's response on the panel gave the answer to that question. But the reason why we keep asking that question is because we just want to prove to Graham Bailey that he was talking nonsense, that Joe Linton is by far better than Conor Gallagher. That is for sure. So, yeah, I just thought I'd put that out there. Graham Bailey, I know he watches the show. There you go. Another one proven. Joe Linton is better than Conor Gallagher. Guys, that's it. End of the questions there. It's been a great chat with you tonight about, obviously, the Howard Mitchell topic. Really good stadium topic as well, and get your opinions on various other things. And I love the fact that we can just take the conversation in different directions and have a good chat about it. But as a panel, you're always a top panel, individually and collectively. And look, just make sure people that are watching this, go check out Johnny on Newcastle Fans TV. Check out their content. Specs on Geordie Dread TV. Make sure you're subscribing to all of these channels as well. Matty on the Magpie channel. Make sure you watch that. Again, we brought up the stadium conversation because he had a really good video on that, Matty. So check that out and check his opinions out on that. Fumby, you will see on Loaded Mag NUFC time and time again as the weeks go on this season. So make sure you're following him on socials. And of course, Geordie Josh, not just on Twitter with all the latest Newcastle United news, but also on TikTok as well and Instagram. So make sure you're following him as well. And everybody else on those platforms too. Boys, absolute pleasure tonight. Thank you for joining us. And look, we will make sure that we do this again a lot sooner than, 6 months it's been since we last. But no, big up to yourselves. Massive thanks for you joining us, and big up to everyone in the chat as well. Make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're liking, and you're doing all that good stuff for Loaded Mag, NUFC, and everybody else. Any last thoughts, boys? Are we going to win on Sunday?
Yep, of course.
We're going to win on Sunday. and Newcastle fans think they're going to retain the charity.
Oh,
Oh,
Johnny,
you had to get it. You had to slide it in there.
Get it in there.
Always.
Got it in there before.
Slide it in.
oh yeah, Johnny, I swear to God, right? I was literally just gonna say he's went the full show without putting one little pun in. I knew it was coming, you know. I knew it was coming.
Boys,
Johnny at the back post, extra time. Do you know what I mean? Oh my days.
what it needs to be this time is either Matty or Josh at the back post last minute.
That would be nice.
That's what it's going to be. The date is already booked. I'll speak to you guys off air. The date has been booked. The charity match is on again. So we're booking it in, and we're going to take that trophy back. That is for sure. But until then, you guys take care. Have a fantastic evening. And how'd you like that? Take care, people.
How you like